this is the guy I want to be. Like I have that adventure spirit awakened in me, and that immediately shifted things, and it made me get that fighting heart of man beating in my own chest. Where I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
why are you complaining? Why is this your outlook? Why you been going through the day like complaining about everything and being so ungrateful? And it's like, how does an action adventure story do that? I don't know. Guys, welcome in, welcome back to the Men's Adventure Fiction podcast. Very excited to be here with Nathaniel Hummel, who I got to meet in person, which we will get to. That was awesome. So things are feeling good to be here with you guys. Things are great on the Discord. Be sure to jump in and join that. There's a lot of fun and exciting kind of developments happening as we close out the year, start 2025. The Men's Adventure Fiction team here. Not just, I don't mean just me and Nathaniel. I mean everyone on the Discord, everyone on YouTube, in the comments, everyone here is kind of banding together to do some big stuff next year. So I'm very excited, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about is what's to come. So do you want to introduce the topic for today, Nathaniel?
Yeah, for sure. Um, First of all, it was an absolute pleasure meeting Luke, but like he said, we'll touch on that later. He is the real deal. He's exactly exactly as he portrays himself on the podcast. But today, this is probably the closest to kind of like a radio episode we're ever going to get because we decided that it's super important to talk about the things that are coming ahead. Now, this pertains directly to Luke and I, and anything else within the men's adventure fiction podcast sphere, but it also goes into all the men's adventure fiction that's coming out in the next 3 to 6 months, I'd say, somewhere around that time frame, and even further on. So we wanted to bring you guys in and talk about the things that we had to look forward to. Um, I'm sure we'll do a sort of year in review for 2024 eventually about all the good stuff that came out. But right now we're looking forward to 2025 and not even 2025. Some of this stuff is coming out in December of 2024 because 2024 is going to go out with a big stinking
Yeah.
bang. Lots of great stuff coming, which we're going to talk about. So we can dive right in. Well, first, let me just apologize. My voice is kind of off because I've been sick the past, it's about to be 10 days. So I don't think I'm contagious anymore, but it's not been fun. And now I'm losing my voice, so I sound extra contagious, which is just the perfect way to go. But yeah, take it away, Luke. Let's
No
lay
problem.
lay it on him.
All right, so first thing we have is December 9th, Indiana Jones video game. Um, that's going to be like the first thing to look forward to in the next couple weeks. One thing comes before it, one bigger thing, but we'll touch on that
But
later.
we'll get to that later.
But the Indiana Jones video game is super exciting because I mean, first off, it's Indiana Jones. It doesn't get more men's adventure fiction. He's one of the absolute Goliaths of the genre, and to
Yeah.
have that level of a video game about him, it's not like, on your phone. It's not some old game on PS2, which would still be cool, right?
Hmm.
And there were like Lego Indiana Jones games. There were other Indiana Jones games as well, but this one is like a big budget, beautiful looking game that I'm excited for.
Yeah. Yeah,
What are your
very cool.
thoughts on this?
We had just had a quick sidebar because we weren't sure about when this game actually comes out, but it is officially the 9th, according to the Bethesda website. Some places, the Google countdown of all places says it's 19 days out, which would be the 6th. And it's probably just because they're super excited for it to come out like we are. They're just
Right.
ticking down the days, dude. Um, this game is highly anticipated by me. I will say that um I'm slightly less, not that I'm less interested because you can't be less than like ultimate interest, but I kind of wish that it had been a fully third person game. So the way that this game is set up is it's first person perspective for all the combat and a lot of the action and like sneaking around. But when you do any sort of like traversal, like climbing or
Hmm.
swinging or zip lining, I think he uses some like swinging with his whip and stuff, which is going to be so sick. It's going to go back to that third person so you can see his body moving, because a lot of the times in video games, if you have any sort of like parkour game where it's in the first person perspective, it can cause motion sickness.
Mm,
So I think that they were like, if we're gonna have really like crazy chase scenes, we need to have them be third person,
right.
um, especially if he's jumping off buildings and stuff like that and doing rolls, because then the camera is in there and it's crazy. But it's really cool that it's. I think that this is something, it's like it's both a detractor for me because of how much I love the Uncharted games, and
Hmm.
obviously I want more third person Uncharted games, but it's also a big attraction to me to have a game that goes back and forth between points of view. So that's going to be really cool. But Troy Baker is the voice actor, and I don't know if you watched any of the trailers or how much you've done on this, but his
Yeah,
voice, his Harrison Ford impression is
it's just so good.
superb.
It's so good.
So, pretty cool. It's tough because Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones are so inextricably linked. So to have him come in and do such a good voice is a good thing, but it's also tough because will we ever get another Indiana Jones movie and how will they go about that? But to have this in the interim, to have a badass, like you said, incredibly high budget
Yeah.
Indiana Jones game, and it's one of the most highly anticipated games of the year, which is crazy because they pushed it to December 6th or 9th.
Or
Who knows?
possibly the
No one will
ninth.
know. So I'm very excited for that. It's cool to see people craving men's adventure fiction.
Right. It's gonna be just another kind of breadcrumb out there to the world to see like, oh man, this is the genre we're missing. Let me follow this trail, lead you
Right.
down the rabbit. Because as we talk about this, it starts there a lot of the times. The gateway into men's adventure fiction is Indiana Jones. What's more like Indiana Jones? You start Googling, you find out Ponga Jim, you find out Nathan Drake. You're going down all
Yeah.
these different trails. But I'm with you on the third person thing. I prefer third person games in general, so that just kind of annoyed me
Yeah.
overall. But I'll get over it because of how high quality this seems. This seems like it knows what it's doing. I'm gonna trust it. I'm gonna trust the game developers. I think it's gonna be awesome. But I
Yeah, it
do
should be
wonder,
sick.
I'm wondering if they like did that on purpose to kind of separate themselves from Uncharted a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, for
you know?
sure.
Because Uncharted is such a in that world, in the world of video games, like it's the behemoth of men's adventure fiction, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so interesting is like, um, it's crazy how cyclical it's become because Indiana Jones was first, and then they made Tomb Raider, and then everyone's like, "Oh, she's just female Indiana Jones," and then they made Uncharted, and like, "Oh, well, he's just the male Lara Croft," and then now we're coming back to I'm making an Indiana Jones game, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, it's just a Tomb Raider or Indiana or Uncharted game." It's like, no, dude,
Right.
he's the OG. He's the first one of this kind. Everyone else is based off him. So part of me is like, they didn't need to separate themselves because they're the real one. Like if
Right.
there was a third person treasure hunting game, it should be Indiana Jones.
For
But
sure.
I definitely agree. I think that that was the mindset. It's like we don't want to get into that. Oh, this is
Hmm.
just a remake of Uncharted. This is a remake of Tomb Raider. So they were like, we're gonna do something totally different, and we still will give you um that traversal in third person so you can kind of call back to those incredible games, but now it's also clearly its own thing. But yeah, I'm excited. It's I don't play video games often enough to
Yeah, me neither.
um warrant me buying an Xbox, but I feel the call, dude. I might have to just buy an Xbox solely for this game because that's how big of a deal it is.
Right. Yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see how it does, and I hope it does really, really well. I hope it does so
Right.
well that people start looking at properties like Clive Cussler's Dirk Pit over
Yeah.
here, and they're like, "Let's make
Yeah.
a Dirk Pit game," and you go underwater and you're doing all kinds of.
Dude,
I
so
think it'd be.
sick.
I think the possibilities are endless. You guys ready? You ready for the next one?
Yeah, let's bring it on.
All right. So the next one's a film, and hopefully this is the correct release date for December 13th. Craven the Hunter. And
Dude.
speaking of release dates, though. I mean, this thing has had about 4 or 5 different release
Yeah.
dates. I don't know if you've been following. I got so hyped. I think it was going to come back like a year ago in October
Yeah.
or something like that. And I was like, all right. And then it got pushed. And I was like, okay. And then it got
Right.
pushed again. And I was like,
Right.
all right. And then it got pushed again. I was just, okay, I'm done with this movie, dude. Like, I can't think about this. So I've tried very intentionally to like pull my hype back for Craven. But now that we're, here the November, mid-November,
Yeah.
it's officially time to crank up the Craven the Hunter hype again, I think.
Yeah, for real. Um, Craven the Hunter is just one of the coolest characters of all time.
Oh
And I
yeah.
haven't even like done a super deep dive into the comics because unfortunately that's where most of his content is from. But I
Right.
remember in like I don't know, 2008 or something like that, maybe even before, they had this show called The Spectacular Spider-Man on Disney Channel. And there was a whole episode arc with Kraven the Hunter, and it was the most badass thing I ever seen as like like I was like, dude, there's other characters like this. This is so sick. So thinking about him being cast, it was like, who could possibly play this just absolute beast of a man? And then they
Hmm.
got it's Jeremy Allen.
No, not Jeremy Allen White. Looks like him. Aaron Taylor Johnson
That's
also
what
has
I couldn't
multiple
get the
names.
three names, dude. It's the three names. I knew it wasn't Jeremy. I can't even remember either one of their names now. Yeah, Aaron Taylor and Johnson. Crazy actor in Bullet Train, dude. He
Yeah,
stole the show
dude,
in that movie.
great character.
Uh,
Tangerine. That's so good.
Tangerine, dude. So good. Which is crazy that I couldn't remember his name because he's also been stated to be in the running for Bond like
Yeah,
150 times. But I love that dude. And he has the physicality to play Craven, which I think is
right.
such a huge aspect of it. Um, I always have to like dampen my expectations for that because of how bad the Sony Spider-Man like villain movies have been. But I don't know. This one it's like that's what's nice about them pushing the release date off and off and off is that like hopefully they were doing that so that this is like gonna get at least 70% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like
Yeah.
that.
I know, great point you make there because a lot of conversations I get in with people about Craven, that's the immediate shutdown. It's like, this is from the people who did Morbius. And it's like, I understand. But I think if you go in it with the right mindset, if you got the men's adventure fiction vibe going, and you see this kind of like, it's all a lot of the footage in the trailer reminds me of if First Blood had been like up to have a
Yeah,
little sci-fi, little superhero elements to it. If you go in there and maybe it delivers on that, that could be a fun time. Maybe it's not gonna be
right.
some, Oscar-winning film for sure. It's not gonna be amazing, but that could be a very fun, entertaining few hours to spend in December. I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying not to be pessimistic about it. I think,
Yeah.
like you said, Aaron Taylor Johnson too, a great pick. He's very charismatic. I've liked that guy since like Kick-Ass back in whatever that was, 20 something, 20
Yeah.
maybe 2008, 2009, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
that sounds right.
And yeah, I used to watch that movie on repeat. And that guy's just so charismatic. And then um, he's just, everything I've seen him in, he's either steals the show, like in Outlaw King, where he was um, blanking on the name, but do you know what I'm talking about? In Outlaw
I
King,
actually haven't seen Outlaw King.
oh, you gotta
But
see
now I'm
Outlaw
gonna
King.
have to watch it because he's in there. And I love
Right.
this dude, even though I can't remember his name.
Aaron Taylor Johnson plays this character, um, and essentially he gets his name like taken, and so he's like fighting for his name. Douglas, Black Douglas, I think is what his like urban legend name is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. His moniker.
yeah, his moniker is Black Douglas. And he steals the show. He's not the main character at all, but he was my favorite and he crushed it.
Yeah,
Or something like Nocturnal Animals, where he's a horrifying villain and you hate him so much, like so much you hate him. That shows you what a good actor he is. It shows you how well
right.
he kind of can do what he needs to do on camera. So I'm really looking forward to his portrayal and hopefully
Yeah.
it's sweet. Hopefully we're not coming back here on the Men's Adventure Fiction podcast after December 13th. Like I apologize. I have to release a statement that I did never meant to endorse Craven.
Well, and it's exactly what you said. It's all about perspective. Because I mean, if you've seen the trailers, you know that it looks like it's just going to be to some degree not a shoot 'em up because it looks like he's using more than just guns, but just like it's going to be an action movie. So I
Right.
think if you go in expecting only some fun fight scenes, I think we'll be pleasantly our expectations will be met. Now, like if the storyline's gonna be terrible, sure, that might happen. But I mean, that's how if you deliver in the action, that's 50% of the battle, in my opinion. If you can
Right.
do a good story too, then you got a perfect movie. But to meet one of those requirements, I think it should do that.
And
I'm
that,
hopeful it will.
yeah, me too. But that's where like I feel like I do have to pull out my soapbox sometimes where it's the only fear I have is if the action scenes are what we saw in the trailer and we get like two action scenes for a
Right.
almost 2 hour runtime because sometimes people they think they want to do men's adventure fiction. They kind of want to touch that market, but they don't. They're kind of like ashamed of those roots. They don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So they think it needs to be something more. They think it needs to have better themes and like deeper, and they won't give you the full experience of like an action movie, what action movies used to be. That would
Hmm.
make me mad. I wouldn't like that very much. So I hope they are unashamed and just go full force. Like, did that guy just bite someone's face off for the fourth time in
Yeah.
in an hour? Like, this is great. That's what
How
we
many
need.
how many people can he shoot his crossbow through in a single go? Like I want to see something like that. Like through five
Exactly.
or six necks at least, right? Like they're lined up, dude. This is gonna be sick. Hopefully.
Hopefully, we will have to report back. But let's get to this next one here on my list, which is something very exciting within our kind of men's adventure fiction pulp community in this pulp revival, this new men's adventure fiction movement here, and that is Pulp Reality by Charles Millhouse. It's going to be an anthology coming out in 2025. So we don't have access to this or anything. We don't have a whole lot of knowledge on it. We just wanted to
Right.
definitely bring this to the conversation because this is exactly what we want to see. It's a magazine like the men's adventure fiction type thing, like the old magazines, the men's adventure magazines, with an anthology collection of different
Yeah.
authors, different new pulp authors. So the best of the best in this genre right now, um, all coming together to write in this magazine that
So sick.
Charles Millhouse is doing. And if you look at the cover on his Instagram and on his Facebook, it's beautiful art. It's perfect. It's exactly what we want. So it's
Yeah,
just we wanted to mention this for sure because Charles F. Millhouse is doing exactly what we need to be done in this
for
genre.
sure. Um, and this is the final one, right? I think they did four previously or something like that. But I
They've
think
definitely done more. I did not know it was the final one. That I didn't know that.
take that with a grain of salt. Who knows if it is or not? But I remember the very little research I did seemed to hint at that. But that's what's so cool about it is like it's exactly that. It's four or five different authors coming together and banding together to write new
Hmm.
pulp. I mean, literally that's what when Charles was on, that's what he was talking about, the new pulp revival. I think
Yep.
that it's so cool to think of it as new pulp is capitalizing on what old pulp was really good at and then taking it even further. I know you and I have talked about that before. Like we want to honor what came before us and then we want to push it even further. We want to and
Absolutely.
that is honoring to those people because these are the men that have just men and women who have pushed so hard to make these stories and this content come alive. And then now, 100 years later, from when the pulps first really were getting going, we have the opportunity to do the same thing and to
Yeah.
bring it to a new audience. And I mean, Charles has been killing it on that front for years now. So it's cool to
Absolutely.
see him. I mean, every time you think about it, right? Like even just thinking about any short story collection, it's like a ragtag group of our
Yeah.
heroes. And it's so cool how reality can mirror the fiction we love so much. It's like, dude, how many cool conversations did those five, six guys that are in the Pulp Reality magazine spend talking? Like, how much time did they spend talking in the smoky back room, planning their game
Mhm.
plan, planning the mission, dude, to bring Pulp back to the people? So it's awesome to see.
It is. Dude, now, yeah, as you're talking, it's reminding me of what we're going to talk about later, like the stuff we've gotten to do. And as you said, how it mirrors it and how it makes you feel like you're living the adventure. That's why I feel like almost every episode now I harp on. You got to go out and, like, if you have a friend that you guys both write, start banding together. Do what me and Nathaniel do, where it's like we talk about, okay, what do we want to do? How are we going to push this genre forward? And what can we do together? What can we build? You guys are all the next movers, shakers, disruptors. Like you're the ones out there doing this thing. So,
Right.
get yourselves teamed up, game planned up, get in the smoky back room, figure out what 2025 is going to look like for you. What projects are you bringing to the list? What are we going to be talking about in 2026 where it's like, did you know such and such this movie just got made and we're going to be seeing that? That's what we need to start doing,
I
right?
love it. Yeah.
So, so yeah, that gets
Um,
me pumped. I'm very pumped.
I agree. And the shameless plug for the Men's Adventure Fiction Discord. If you don't have any friends in this genre who love this, join
Mhm.
that. I mean, one of our most acclaimed episodes that people really loved was that short story. We read, was it six or seven short stories?
Yeah.
People loved that. And you know how those stories were made? It was by joining that podcast and reading those prompts, and that sparked the people's imaginations, and they were inspired to write a story based off of that prompt. And we got incredible stories. So even if it's something like as small as that, even though that was a hour of time that we spent reading those stories and they were able to come to life for you guys to hear, it's something like that. Like join the Discord and meet people like Luke, like me, like everyone in the Discord who's writing, trying to write for a living, trying to write for passion, just trying to create stories that are gonna, I mean, what's Grayson Sullivan's Substack thing is I want to write the stories I loved as a kid. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the heart of it, dude.
Right.
So yeah, hop in there. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Come on down. There's enough room for everybody.
Oh yeah. And the main section of the Discord is actually called the Smoky Back Room. So
There you
there you
go.
go. Metaphorically and well, I guess
Literally.
not. I guess not.
Kind of literally, virtually
Definitely
literally.
literally. Yeah, there you go.
All
Make some
right. So that,
content.
yeah, that brings us into, speaking of content, the next kind of topic is going to actually branch into 5,000 topics because we're talking what Taylor Sheridan's bringing to the genre coming up here soon. Starting with Yellowstone, I
Yeah.
think was a good place to start because that's his flagship series. That's what started off getting him very, very into the mainstream, other than the films. Um, Yellowstone kind of was obviously a huge deal, and that's back for its this season. What season is five?
It's season 5.2.
So
Um,
annoying that they do that. I hate
it
that.
is so annoying.
Cobra Kai's doing that right now too, and it's like, just stop. Just please
Yeah,
don't do
just
this to
make
me.
two seasons. What are we doing here?
Outer Banks too, right? It was
Yeah,
like
they
part
did
one.
that too. I can't
Stop it.
believe that. I guess it's um the only way to get it to be bingeable and also have you come back week to week, maybe. I don't know. But let's dive into Yellowstone a little bit.
Absolutely.
Um, incredible series at time of recording. Tomorrow, the second half of season 5 goes live. Um, and this was held up for literally just under 2 years. It was the last episode
Dang.
came out in December 31st of 22, I believe.
Jeez.
So, and that
Is
has to
this?
do with
Oh,
Kevin
go ahead.
Costner and his passion for the Horizon series that
Right,
he's
right.
making, which is also a great series.
Yes.
Didn't do well with the critics or in the box office, but really, really good movie. Check it out. And there's like 4 more parts coming or 3 more.
Possibly.
Um, yeah, so this got stuck up. It also happened right during everything going on with the writer's strike and the actor's strike. So it's been 2 years since that they did this. So hugely anticipated, and I think it delivered to a certain degree. It definitely, I'm excited to see t tomorrow's episode. Um, it's interesting how the show has evolved over 5 seasons, which ended up being 7 years, I guess. But it's just so good. The cast of characters and also the interesting parallels between this show and both of our one of our both favorite shows of all time, 1923, is
Yeah.
crazy. You could almost see like Casey Dutton and Spencer Dutton are kind of like mirror images of each other to some degree. Both of them
Mm.
have military experience. Both of them kind of haunted by that. Both of them find themselves getting into trouble really easily and are able to handle the trouble most of the time. Um, and then you just have such a great cast of characters with everyone else in Yellowstone. I don't want to wax too eloquently about it because, as we're going to see by the end of this little segment, that we need to just have a Taylor Sheridan episode because
Yeah.
that man's out of control. But what are your thoughts on Yellowstone?
So Yellowstone, I saw Jake from the Discord for you guys who know, and he's the author of the Chris Foley series. I was with him at the coffee shop today, and we were talking about it for a little bit, and I said that I'm either one or two seasons behind because I kind of got annoyed with Yellowstone personally because I loved it so much at the
Uh-huh.
beginning, and I think it too much of what you can say about Taylor Sheridan, it's the pinnacle of modern westerns. He does it better than anybody, and I found it so cool how he could take these themes and what I love about westerns and move it into a modern setting and have it be social commentary without it being like the annoying type of social commentary where you're like, okay, stop
Yeah.
preaching at me. I thought he did such a good job of making it relevant and entertaining and men's adventure fiction and Western. I was having so much fun with it, but then I don't know, I can't even really describe to you what exactly made me lose interest, but around the time, I guess I don't want to say anything because it'd be spoilers, but there was a, it was either last season or 2 seasons ago where a character's revealed and it started to like shift the dynamics a lot. And I was like, I just am not that interested anymore. And it was when it was week by week, I think. I just stopped watching. And then 1923, I saw that and I was like, this is what I want. I'm gonna focus on this over here. And I just haven't picked it up. So I kind of am a little bit sad with how my relationship with Yellowstone has gone. I need to pick it back up and, continue on. But I definitely have more of a heart for 1923,
Yeah.
1883, that kind of thing. But Yellowstone season one, I think is almost like peak television. It was so good how he came out the gate with that.
Yeah, I would say one, I think it's seasons 1 through 4. I think 3 ends on a really big cliffhanger.
Okay,
Um,
I did see that. So season four would have been what I was watching until like halfway through, and then I was like,
yeah, dude,
this is not interesting anymore.
halfway through season 4, it just got very, I think it's what we talk about all the time with um, difference between men's adventure fiction and a political thriller. And I think
Yeah.
it got very, not like political and like, oh, this right-leaning policy, oh, this left-leaning policy. It was
Hmm.
just like, okay, now we're just talking about policies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about this. I was really enjoying the shooting part. Like what happened? Where did this come from? So I would say I would also agree. Seasons 1 through beginning of 4 are some of the craziest TV I've ever watched. I remember my
Yeah.
wife was like, we were living in Colorado at the time. So she's like, I've been hearing lots of good stuff about Yellowstone. We should watch it. All I knew was Kevin Costner in a ranch. I was like, dude, this sounds miserably boring. And then like the first 2 episodes, like, what? This
Right.
is nuts. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Um, and then you get to end of season 3, beginning of season 4, and you're like, oh yeah, this is it. And then it just really like slows down, gets really talky, dramatic. It's like the whole reason this worked is because you had that drama, you had that conversational pieces, but it was backed by this crazy, unexpected action that happens like at a breakneck pace. So I agree. I would say that. And I love Taylor Sheridan. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong, but there's like 2 scenes in um this latest episode of Yellowstone where they're in like Texas and Walker, the ballad singing cowboy dude, he like looks at the land and he just says that he has this like 45-second to 2 minute little monologue where he talks about how the land is just so bad and it's gonna like doesn't even care enough about you to be cruel. And it's like this is just seems so forced to say how hard a modern cowboy's life is and how hard it's been in the past. It's like that's literally the whole point of the show. By season 5, part 2, we know how bad the land is. So it kind of like I was listening to it, I was like, I don't know, I don't like this. And then there's another scene where Rip and the crew are sitting around the fire and everyone's like, oh, don't sing a sad song. And then Rip's like, in 30 years, nobody's gonna be doing this. Sing a sad song. And he went like kind of like waxed on about it. It was like, dude,
Hmm.
obviously the American cowboy is dying, but it's been dying for the last 150 years. Like as soon
Right.
as it started, it was dying. So it was kind of like it seemed like, and I think that that's the whole point is like this show, that's the entire point of the show is like this is an old way and the old ways are better. And I subscribe to that view. I wish that I lived in the 1920s or the 1930s, like I'm very much trying to live an old-fashioned lifestyle. And that's the point of Yellowstone. So to have them say it twice and kind of these like,
A little on the nose.
yeah,
A little heavy-handed.
yeah, it's like, dude, why did we watch 5 seasons of this show? We already know this part. Like, that's the point of the show. Like, what are you doing to me? Um, I may be the only like, and I'm talking about it a lot, but I really didn't mind it that much. But those were
Right.
2 things that kind of like tied back in my mind to what we were talking about with season 4, where it's like, all right, now we're slowing down and we're really gonna like try and slip in uh, a message here. It's like
Right.
It's like you were talking about with Craven. Like, hopefully they don't just give us the action scenes so then they can hit us with a message. And the annoying part is like it's a message I agree with. So
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm mad, but it's like I don't. You're already telling me the message. What are we doing here? Uh,
Right. You already showed me it. I don't need to hear it again.
yeah.
Yeah, to your point of where the show has been and what it thrived on before, where it went, I think the opening shot alone showed just kind of the mastery of Taylor Sheridan, where it's that whole scene where there was a truck and hitting into the horse, and it was kind of an accident that Kevin Costner was coming upon, and how I heard him talking about how that's like a metaphor for the new world and technology taking over what was. And I know I've brought that up before in conversation, but that's always struck me as like that shows you what Taylor Sheridan can be at his best, and I love that. It's like this poetic language, but shown visually, and when he can be not heavy-handed or on the nose about it, and it's like that, that's it's too good. It's
Yeah,
too good.
for sure.
So that's Yellowstone, but that is one of many Taylor Sheridan projects, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I can think of a bunch that I have a few written down, but like got Tulsa King right now is currently
Right.
going, maybe ending, but is currently
Yeah,
going.
maybe the season two finale may be coming up. Not sure, but two seasons of that is sick. Great show.
Yeah, Stallone, right? I mean, that's doesn't get better than Stallone. And then you got Gas Man coming out, which is Billy Bob Thornton, who's also great. I don't know if we can really consider that one men's adventure fiction or not. I haven't seen it. Obviously, it's not out yet. There's a
Yeah.
trailer. It's about the oil and gas industry, so I'm sure there will be some Taylor Sheridan men's adventure fiction flair to it, but it seems a little more in line with something like Mayor of Easttown. Is it called Mayor of Easttown, his show,
It's
or
Kingstown.
Mayor of Kingstown? Okay. That one I haven't watched.
Yeah, I haven't
There's
watched it
that
either.
one. There's Lioness.
Yeah.
There's Bass Reeves. There's of course 1883 and 1923. I mean, look how many projects I just rattled off, and I'm not hit. I actually didn't hit all of them because you got Matthew McConaughey's. It was going to be called 2024, but I think it has a new name now.
Yeah.
Um, they might have canceled that 4/6s idea that they had, but there's so many
Crazy, dude.
projects. It's ridiculous, dude. He's started an empire.
Yeah. Um, and I think most near and dear to both of us is season two of 1923. Um,
Absolutely.
any info on that?
Sad info on that. I looked into it for the episode, and this is from 4 hours ago, on USA Today. It says that 1923 is currently in production, and so there's no set release date. And so I kind of looked into that a little bit more. And the internet is the internet, so take this with a grain of salt. But it said expect maybe end of 2025, beginning of 2026, which would not be
Whole
fun
year,
for
dude.
I don't want to do that. I really I know it was like a long shot. I know that, and it's only become more of a long shot. But I remember watching season one around this time when it came out, like it was around Christmas or something.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I even watched the episode on Christmas Day or something. But I wanted that again. I was like, maybe season two this Christmas, but I know that's obviously not gonna
Yeah.
happen. Uh,
Next
and
Christmas. Maybe next Christmas.
maybe next Christmas. But yeah, 1923, that's the crown jewel for me at this point with Taylor Sheridan's what he's doing out there, because Yellowstone at first definitely was his staple, but 1923, the Yellowstone spinoff, I think to me is
Yeah.
what I want to see more of. It's two classic men's adventure fiction. If you haven't seen our episode, our very first episode on Spencer Dutton, go check that out and see why we have such a passion for that character.
He really does take the cake. Um,
Yeah,
and that's kind of circles back to Indiana Jones. Like, is he, because if we never get any more Indiana Jones movies, is this Spencer Dutton character someone who can carry on that legacy and already has to some degree? Um,
right.
so it's tough thinking like there's no chance Taylor Sheridan makes a Spencer Dutton spin-off movie, you know? So we gotta savor what we can get as we can get it, and hopefully they carry 1923 on for a long time, and Spence is around with us for a long time, but we'll see. But
Uh,
we do
yeah.
have that on the far horizon to look forward to. So
Yeah, I guess that's where we got to bring it back now, because that one is maybe 2026. We got to bring it back to what's even before the December 6th or 9th, possibly, of Indiana Jones. What do we have to look forward to? Possibly December 3rd. Is there something coming out that day,
I don't
Nathaniel, that
know.
we should talk about?
Probably should, but My mind is slipping on what it is. Um, oh, it's the Fighting Heart of Man, dude, Volume 1,
I know.
coming
How
out
exciting is this?
December 3rd, 2024. So while you have to wait a long time for Spencer Dutton to come back, you do not have to wait very much longer for Luke and I's collaboration short story collection, The Fighting Heart of Man, Volume 1, with 11 stories,
Yeah.
9 heroes, um, 2 writers bringing this thing to the forefront. And this is pure men's adventure fiction, pulp energy. Um, I don't want to hype it up too much, but I've read the stuff you wrote, and I wrote the stuff that I wrote, and I
Yeah.
loved every second of both aspects of that. It was the months leading up to this project happening. Every time I got to write something, I was like, dude, this is so much fun. I love this. This is the type of stories that I wanted to read when I was younger, that I want to read
Yeah.
now, and I'm getting to write them. And then I look in my email inbox, and there's another one from you. And just to get to tear into these stories, these incredible characters that you've crafted, that I've had the chance to write, um, that tell this story that we've talked about previously of these are characters going through their daily lives, and their lives are just adventures, and they have to fight to survive, either themselves, others, their surroundings, whatever it is. They are pushing in and utilizing that fighting heart of man. And I can't wait for you guys to read this.
Yeah, man. This is going to be too exciting. This is, to me, this is our true start, like, the firing gun on the beginning of a sprint towards making men's adventure fiction have its triumphant return. Because this book, like this collection of short stories, it's exactly what we I wanted. Let me tell you a story, dude. I had a day where I didn't get any sleep the night before because of my kids, and then I had this long day at work, and I was just like not feeling it. I was just one of those days where you just feel like, dude, why am I not living like Spencer Dutton out in Africa or something? This is not what I want. And
Yeah.
I open your email and I'm reading Bartholomew Cullen, dude, and I'm seeing this adventure happen, and I'm watching him in the mountains cooking over a fire. And let me tell you, dude, I felt like immediately like I was transported back to when I was a kid in that backyard, and it's just like, wow, this is the guy I want to be. Like I have that adventure spirit awakened in me, and I just that immediately shifted things, and it made me get that fighting heart of man beating in my own chest. Where I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
why are you complaining? Why is this your outlook? Why you been going through the day like complaining about everything and being so ungrateful? And it's like, how does an action adventure story do that? I don't know, but your stories did that constantly. Every time I read one, I got this jolt of energy, this jolt of excitement, and it's exactly what I think that the world needs right now. We talked a little bit about this with Frank Theodat. It's very depressing out there, and people like to be nihilistic, and a lot of stories are nihilistic, but these stories are fun. These stories show you like that you can fight and why you should fight. And I just think that I had so much fun reading your stories that I know people will as well.
Thanks,
And
man.
we got to get them out there to the people. And I think, if you have kids in your life, if you have like young boys, get them a copy. I think this is the perfect Christmas gift for them because it's clean enough, right? I mean, these are not tame PG or G stories for sure. Boys like danger, boys like adventure. But I can feel confident saying and comfortable saying that your kids could read it,
Yeah.
for the most part. Give it a read yourself. But
Right.
I think for the most part, handing this a 12-year-old, especially 13 up, that kind of thing,
For sure.
they're they're solid. And these are the kind of stories that young boys need so they can see the hero within themselves. Because every time I read one of Nathaniel's stories, I was just, I gotta be a little bit better. I gotta push myself a little bit harder.
Well, and that's what's so cool about this too, is like the stories that you told, the characters that you created, um, especially, man, Cutlass Kane. My mind always runs back to him because he's the one who's clearest for like, I got to know more about Cutlass Kane. This character is just drawing me in. And it's so cool the way that you build up that story. I don't want to spoil anything about it because it's a masterpiece. So I think that just like I think this works so well because it stems back to our deep passion and love for Louis L'Amour and
Yeah.
in specific, and then this genre as a whole, because you have and when you were talking about like you could hand this to a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, it's like, yeah, I could hand this to someone the same way I'd hand them a Louis L'Amour book. Now the uh violence may be turned up a little bit in this to some degree, but Louis L'Amour's books were it had incredible violence in them. It
Right.
talks about men of danger who are willing to control that danger and then unleash it on people who are doing evil things. And every one of these stories holds true to that. Um, and then it also is like it's like watching. I know that this was your pitch for Vipers and Red Rocks. It's like an old Western meets an 80s action movie. So there's
Yeah.
definitely aspects of this. It's like I don't know how old I'm going to be when I have if I ever have a son, when I'm going to have him watch Rambo for the first time, but he's probably going to be like 12 years old and it'll be
Right.
fine, because like it's that sort of thing where it's a shoot 'em up. It's a action movie. Like the first time they watch Magnificent Seven, they'll be like 10 years old. And that movie has
Hmm.
tons of like crazy action. And it's because and it's something that you said earlier, like how could an action adventure story do this? It's because in this world, we're able to kind of boil these things down to good and evil, and there's less gray. There definitely is some gray. I know Nate Colt operates in kind of a shady criminal underworld, but it's clear who the bad guys are. And it's not like, oh, the bad guys are bad guys because they're just keeping me from getting my money. It's like, no, there's
Hmm.
higher morals here that these characters all stand for and they're all willing to hold to. And man, I love it. Like, is the
Yeah.
is the bounty hunter in your bounty hunter story gonna come back? Like that's what's so exciting about this is to have this as volume one to start. And they're like we said before, it's not a spoiler. There's going to be a volume two. Does that mean we're going to
Right.
see some of these same characters? Probably. Does it mean that we're going to get direct sequels to some of the other shorts? Maybe. Who knows? Probably not. Probably. I don't know. You'll have to tune into volume two to find out. Um,
Right.
and to circle back, dude, Noah Redford is punching his way to the top of my favorite characters of all times
That's
list.
amazing.
It's like hard to admit because he's not like an incredibly well-known character yet, but literally,
Hmm.
dude, every time you send me a short story, every time I read one of the short stories that Noah is in, it's like, dude, this guy is so sick. Which I might have said this before, but back to our Indiana Jones episode, I don't know why I wasn't like, yeah, read Noah Redford because Noah Redford is exactly that. Like when I think, oh, I want more Indiana Jones, I want more Ponga Jim. It's like, okay, Noah Redford's the next guy. So it's cool to see you carry on this legacy. It's like anytime I read a Noah Redford story, I know that it's gonna answer all of the questions I have for men's adventure fiction. And that's what's so cool. It's like he's exactly in my personal niche for what I love about the genre. So
Right.
it's like it just hits home for me. And if you're here, I'm sure that a large chunk of you are like, yeah, Indiana Jones is one of my favorite. It may not be my favorite movie of all time, but that like high adventure subgenre is the coolest thing I've ever witnessed, and I need more of it. And that is what The Fighting Heart of Man is. Not every story is going to fall into that high adventure little niche, but all of them will touch it to some point.
Right. I had to adjust the camera because my head can only get so big with all those compliments you gave me. But I won't be able to fit in the frame anymore. But I I can't agree with you more. Like I'm so proud of this product we put together and I feel okay, putting on the salesman hat here because I'm not even trying to pitch my own stories here. I'm strictly talking about what Nathaniel wrote when I say that like this is exactly what people who tune into this podcast and say like, "Oh, I love this genre. I love what they're talking about. This is the stuff." His stories are exactly that, dude. The French Foreign Legion story in there, and you got like castles in yours, you got sword fighting. It's like how could this get any better? It's too exciting, it's too fun. The set pieces are incredible, and I just cannot wait for people to read these and we could talk about them and kind of get into spoilers with the guys
Yeah.
in the Discord and stuff because it's nothing but a blast to read your stories and get into your characters and I uh I just thank you for coming along a journey with me and doing this with me because this has been too great, man.
Yeah, I
Too much
agree.
fun.
Well, it's like we were talking about earlier. It's like how many times were we sitting in the metaphorical smoky back room planning the mission, dude? And I think that um you as the listener or the watcher or the reader, you have spent 18 weeks with us now. This is week 18, right? So you
Dang,
know
yeah, I think
that
so.
our passion for this genre is bar none. Like we love this. We wouldn't have a podcast where we talk about it every week if it weren't true. And that's what you got to think. Like Luke, exactly what you were saying. Like when I read your stuff, I see the DNA of 100, 200 years of these stories coming together because you're writing with that passion that not only the writers had, but also the adventurers that the stories are based on. So it's so cool to see like it's kind of like when you're watching or you have your favorite book of all time or your favorite comic book character of all time. When you know that the person writing that movie adaptation loves him almost as much as you do, you can feel safe picking that whatever they put up. It may not get it perfect, but it's gonna get the heart of it. And I think that this book will do that. So if you love this genre, The Fighting Heart of Man is for you because it's exactly what we love about it boiled down into 11 stories. And I think that the passion will show through. So it's
Yeah,
like Luke
guys.
said, like it feels bad shamelessly pitching it and saying this might be one of the greatest books you ever read. And I don't think it will be, but it'll at
You'll
least
have you'll have fun. That's
when
for
you
sure.
think greatest book I ever read, this will fleet through your mind at least once. It's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, dude. And it's gonna be one of those pocket-sized boys that you could throw in your back pocket, take on a hike, open up to a short story of seeing one of Nathaniel's characters like absolutely getting after it with I won't say because that'll be spoilers,
Yeah, no
but like some
spoilers.
great fights that only a men's adventure fiction legend like yourself could come up with. But I'm
Thanks,
very
brother.
excited, dude. That's December 3rd, everybody. December 3rd is when you can get this thing, and we hope you do. And this was us shamelessly plugging it, and we'll conclude that now. But I really do believe in this, and I believe in what Nathaniel's done.
Thanks, dude. I believe in you, what you've done. And
Thanks, sir.
to put a clear example of that into words, this past week, Luke and I got to meet up. We live about 4, 5 hours away from each other. So we met halfway, about 2.5 for each of us. And we met in the middle of a state forest. And we brought as many guns as we could and as many cameras as we could. And we set up and we spent 8 hours, uh, maybe like 2 10-minute breaks for water.
Hmm.
No food.
No, but get that out of here.
Sole determination in creating men's adventure fiction content. And with that day, we were able to film a entire short film as well as a little something special for the Fighting Heart of Man, which will be releasing soon. So it was an incredible day, and I think it speaks to Luke's character that I mean, I've been making videos and doing content with my friends for years now. And most of the time it's like, all right, we need to get this done. We need to make this happen. Don't worry about eating. Don't worry about drinking. Just get it done. And that's easy to do once you've done it so many times and you have people around you. But Luke came into this. When's the last time you made some sort of video with your friends?
Yeah, it's been like 10 years at least. It was a while.
Dude, he comes in, doesn't even bat an eyelash about skipping lunch, skipping breakfast, skipping dinner. He just gets straight to the hustle. And the three of us, Luke, Casey, and myself, were out there in the woods, standing on this high side of a hill, and the
Hmm.
ground is just not stable at all. Every punch we throw, we slip. We had to do like 8 takes for each fight scene because you could not get your footing. But and this is kind of what it gets back to. Like we overcame. We made it happen.
Yeah, that was too much fun. And speaking of overcoming, Nathaniel is the real deal. 100% he's the next Tom Cruise because there was a sequence we wanted to get where we were up high, and I'm afraid of heights. And Nathaniel hops up there, just parkour style, gets up there so quick, and then he's like, "Come on, we'll give this shot." And I'm just, I don't want to go up there at all. And then with a little positive peer pressure, got myself up there.
Dude.
Wasn't so cool up there like him, a little shaky,
No.
but it was great. And like you said, the overcoming, and it was like the men's adventure fiction thing. That's why it's so good to have strong, capable friends around you that push you to be better. Because if it was just me there, I would have never done that. Even if it was just maybe one other person, I would have been like, no, I'm not doing that. But you and Casey both being like, you're fine, dude. Like, relax. And then I'm like, okay,
Right.
I'm being ridiculous. And then I got up there and nothing, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Now the other thing you guys wanted to climb didn't happen because I don't think I could actually make that. That is like parkour level that is above my pay grade. And this again speaks to why Nathaniel needs an action movie because this was technically a swing set, but the way they were set up, like the poles or like the pillars, they were just straight up 10 feet high and they were like spiked edges. They were just boom, boom. And you like I don't even how did you do it? Did you run up it? I don't know how you could physically get up these 10 feet high spikes.
Yeah, there was
What?
like a spot to grab a hold of, probably like only 8 or 9 feet up, and I just jumped and grabbed that and then
10
walked
feet
my
high.
feet up and got on there. It wasn't too crazy.
It was pretty crazy. I was there and it was absurd. And I looked at it. It was just, there's no way I'm getting up there. So kudos to you, sir. That was awesome. And it will be good to see the fruits of that labor once you guys see what we did. And it'll
Yeah.
be a lot of fun. So look forward to that. And, if you ever want to tease me, it's about my fear of heights and deep water. I don't like those two things. So,
Well, it's funny too, because it's like, and that's the other thing. Um, we spent a lot of the day choreographing fight scenes, and I
Mhm.
think that when you do that, the only way that you can, this kind of gets a little like into my philosophy for why I love making these short films and why I love being on the camera. It's like, yeah, I am not badass of all badasses, right? If I get into a gunfight or a fist fight, odds are I'm probably going to lose. Um, but to get some skin in the game. I mean, when we finished filming, I had a big gash on my back from taking a hit and dying and falling onto a log that was sticking up out of the ground. My knees hurt from falling on rocks the whole day. But it's like I don't look at that. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. I can't believe this happens. Every time that I end up filming something and I have any sort of injuries or anything, it's like, dude, it's just that much closer to this being a reality, right? Like if we're
Yeah.
doing a fight scene, I think didn't Casey punch you in the face in
Hmm.
one of the scenes? Like, dude,
I think it was his elbow or his fist got me in one of those.
yeah, that's so sick. Like, let's do it. One of these
Right.
takes, let's just go at each other. It's not even not even for the film anymore. It's just to be men's adventure fiction, you know? So I think that that's what it is. It's like if I, as an actor or a video maker or a content producer of any kind, if I'm not willing to push it, if I'm not willing to dive full force to grab that gun and spin around and shoot the guy, if I'm not willing to actually like take a punch or take a heavy fall for these stunts, then it's so far removed from what I actually strive to be. And dude, you were there. You were on it. You did not miss a beat.
Thanks,
There
man.
was there was nothing where it was like, oh, he's not going to be able to do it. It was like, dude, he's ready for it. He's game. He's going to make it happen no matter what. And your background in boxing, these fight scenes are going to look so sick because your form is just pristine and you know how to
Thanks.
move your body as if it was really a fight. So there will be a short film coming in December. So let me just preface this. December is chock full of men's adventure fiction. We talked about a bunch of stuff already, and then we have The Fighting Heart of Man and An Adventures of Wanderers short film
Yes.
with a little bit of a crossover. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a crossover to someone else that's very near and dear to our hearts. Maybe he might even be a crossover to someone who's been punching his way into my favorite characters of all time list. So you'll just have to tune in and see. We'll talk about that more as we get closer to it.
Perfect, man. Well, that was a great episode of all these things coming out to look forward to. Now it's you guys in the comments. I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the stuff we talked about, and if there's stuff we missed, like what are you excited for in 2025?
Yeah.
Maybe out there from other individuals, or what are you going to be, doing in 2025? What are your big plans for 2025? Because, like I said, it's time for you to take over the men's adventure fiction world. We need you guys to step up and move this thing along. You need to be the next Taylor Sheridan with 45 projects at one time, you know.
Yeah, man.
Uh, we're really looking forward to seeing this community grow and continue to make connections with you in the Discord and chat with you. There, it's been a great experience just doing the podcast, meeting you guys in the comments, meeting you guys in the Discord. Of course, Nathaniel, meeting you, talking with you every week.
Yeah, man.
Just doesn't get better. Does not get better. So that's all I've got, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Anything you want to leave them with, Nathaniel?
Yeah, if you don't want to sound off in the comments, maybe you got really big plans for 2025 and you want to get our input on it, don't
Mhm.
hesitate to shoot an email to men's adventure fiction podcast at gmail.com. Um, I've got it on my phone, so I'll see it right away. I'll let Luke know if he doesn't already see it. He's also on it, so he'll probably see it already too. But we love to hear from you guys. I think we love this podcast and talking about stuff in the whole entire realm of this, like stuff like Taylor Sheridan that's far out, but we also are super passionate about stuff that's closer to home. If
Mhm.
you want your work in progress read and talked about, we will do it. If you have like a book that you want to come out, let us know. We'll definitely talk about it on the podcast because by working together as a team, we can go right back to how it was 100 years ago when like Frank said, you write out your 3,000 word short story, go to the publishing house, hand it in, get your $30 and you're right back at it. You're off to the races. Hopefully it'll increase for inflation and all that. But I think that's what it is. It's like it's so easy to think like, oh well, we don't want to promote each other because if we promote each other, then they're going to take my place at the top. It's like, no, that's not how it's going to work. It's going to work
Yeah.
because you know how many pulp writers there were?
Yeah, dude.
Like hundreds of them, dude. There's people that aren't even heard of anymore, but they were making a living at this. So if we are
Yeah.
able to band together and work together as a team, just imagine this is like, I bet you're wondering why I gathered you here. Like this is the whole point.
Exactly.
Like we're here to make this genre come back.
Dude, yeah, well said. That is the mission, and that's why it's like Ocean's 11 or Inglourious Bastards or one of those team scenarios that we talked about a little bit earlier. This is not, oh no, it's my competition. I'm going to be the pulp guy. You get out of here. I'm the pulp guy.
Right,
It's
right.
like we're all trying to do the same thing, which is bring this genre back to the forefront. So banding together, being the team. Perfectly said, dude. And the Discord and the comment section here, those are the places, the email, all of
Yep.
those are the resources to get yourself plugged in. Because this is not just words on the page, guys. We're a community. We're like a tribe. It's great. Let's get together. Let's make things happen. So
Yeah, right. Like Luke and I just met and we spent a whole day filming.
yeah,
Who's to say that it's not going to be you and Luke and I meeting and we're going to triple our output because now there's
right.
four or five of us and we're able to do even more filming in a day. So I think that like when we come together, we can work together as a team. So don't hesitate to reach out and let's make something happen.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Take care. Keep on fighting like an adventurer. Look out for December 3rd
Oh
for
yeah.
the Fighting Heart of Man. Take care.